Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And of course, we are right in the middle of our monthly series on LinkedIn. I love doing this because I think LinkedIn is so important. We could probably just do, LinkedIn for many programs, but it's fun to be able to focus on it for this month. And what's even better is I get to talk to a friend of mine again, who is a LinkedIn expert. I love talking with this absolutely wonderful woman because she's so much fun, but she really knows her stuff. So please join me in welcoming Debra Jason to our program today. Welcome. Yay! Glad hands.
Right.
So let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we'll jump into this because I know we're going to fill the hour. So Debra Jason started her copywriting business from scratch with one client to her name and no degree in marketing. After a consistent and persistent effort to market herself and keep marketing herself, she is proud to be with us today, still in business, more than 30 years after she opened her doors. She, of course, started when she was 5. In addition to her copywriting business, Debra is a national speaker, marketing mentor, and the author of the award-winning book, Millionaire Marketing on a Shoestring Budget. More on that in a minute. From business owners and engineers to speakers and real estate agents, she has guided hundreds of professionals in creating robust and optimized LinkedIn profiles that help them open the doors to receiving more opportunities on the network. We invited Debra here today to discuss some of the common mistakes often made on LinkedIn and how to avoid them. So again, Debra, welcome.
Thanks, Deb. It's always so much fun. And like you said, the
know.
time just flies by so quickly. So we'll cover as much as we can.
It does. Well, let's go back just a second and talk about the book.
The book.
I love it. We have to show off, and we have to show off our tabs. So I am in the book, so that's always fun. But the reason I want to show off my copy of the book is I almost never do this. When I read a book, it's like, this is great. This is fabulous information. Then the book goes on my shelf. This book needed to have its little markers so that I could go back to it and refer to it. And what I like is it really is about how to market yourself without spending a small fortune. And so there's tons of great ideas in here. So I encourage folks to pick up a copy.
Well, thank you for that little pitch. And I didn't even have to pay you for it.
I know. Such fun.
That's cost-effective marketing.
Yeah. And right, that is the best way to do it, because when someone we know, like, and trust says something about someone else, we're like, oh, okay. Even if we don't know, like, or trust them, if it's just, a third party endorsement, we're like, okay. If you were to see an ad for $1 Million Market, you're like, yeah, right. Yeah.
Right.
But when someone else talks about it, that's what really works. So, so again, pick up your copy at bookstores everywhere. So, Debra, for the people who haven't had the opportunity to listen in the past, tell us a little bit more about where you got to where you are today and how you discovered that this is your passion.
Oh, wow. Well, let's see. Go back a long time to 1988 approximately.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually at that time, I'm in Colorado. For those of you who don't know, I'm in Colorado, but I'm originally from New York. And I had gone back to New York and really wasn't that happy living there. It's a great place to visit, but living there was different. So I returned to Colorado and was looking for a job as a copywriter.
Okay.
And in 1988, Colorado was in a recession. So everywhere I went, people said, we're not hiring.
Right. We're doing it in-house.
Right. But what they did say is if you were to start your own freelance business, we could use your help.
Ah.
So a light bulb went off in my
Mhm.
head because I always wanted my own business. I
Mhm.
didn't know what that was going to
Mhm.
be. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll start my own business
Right.
as a freelance
Mhm.
copywriter.
Mhm.
So that was January 1st of 1989
Mhm.
that I opened my doors for business.
Mhm.
And have, as you said earlier, I don't have a degree in marketing. I'm actually a certified speech pathologist with a
Mm.
master's degree in communication
Mhm.
disorders.
Mhm.
So I had to figure out, how am I going to get my message out
Right.
there?
Mhm.
And there was no internet there. There was no
No,
social
Al
media.
Gore hadn't invented it yet.
So that sort of became my passion was,
Mhm.
okay, well, what do I do to let people know I'm
Mhm.
here? And then fast forward to 9/11.
Mm.
And around the time of 9/11, a lot, at that point, I had had my business for a while, and I had
Mhm.
clients who were calling and saying, I'm nervous, I'm
Mhm.
worried, I think I need to stop marketing. And that's when I said, no, that's when you
Right.
need to
Mhm.
keep marketing.
Mhm.
And they're like, I don't want to spend money. I'm like, well, you can still get your message out there
Mhm.
cost effectively
Mhm.
without breaking the bank.
Mhm.
And that sort of became a passion. I started going out and speaking about that.
Mhm.
And then, as you know, the book didn't actually come out until many years later, when someone said, that sounds like a book.
Yeah,
And I
so why
was
don't you
doing
write a
more
book
and more
about that?
speaking.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's how it all sort of
Mhm.
came to fruition.
Mhm.
And now it's been more than 30 years since I've
Wow.
been doing that.
Mhm. I love it. And uh, copywriting is definitely a skill, and it's unfortunately one of those things that so many people, oh, I can write it. I can write my own stuff. And they can write their own stuff. And I fall prey to that also. Oh, I can write that. But we don't know the nuances of how to do it. All of
Correct.
those various things, and it isn't about just using the right adverbs and adjectives and all of those. There is a true skill in copywriting.
Yes, and it's interesting because a lot of people, when they're doing some marketing,
Hmm.
let's say, creating a website,
Hmm.
they think, well, I don't know how to design a website. I have to hire a designer
Right.
for that,
Hmm.
but I can write it
Hmm.
myself. And a lot of my clients actually end up being people who write it,
Hmm.
and then nothing happens on their website,
Right.
and they go, maybe I didn't do such a good job writing.
Hmm.
And I just went through that with someone
Hmm.
who I did a critique for,
Hmm.
and I gave them the feedback, and they're like, oh my God, you're so right.
Right.
Can I hire you now to rewrite everything that's on
Hmm.
my site?
And you
Because
went,
there is
sure.
to give people some
Mhm.
tips,
Mhm.
you need to understand what's the problem that your
Right.
audience is having.
Hmm.
So, are they struggling to write their LinkedIn profile
Hmm.
because they don't know what to say?
Hmm.
Well, I have a solution. I
Hmm.
can help you share your
Right.
story in a way that captivates and converts
Hmm.
your prospects
Hmm.
into loyal raving fans. And
Right.
so it's just, and the other thing is, people have a hard time writing about themselves.
Hmm. Oh, definitely.
They feel like they're bragging or they're
Hmm.
boasting. And so having a copywriter listen to you,
Hmm.
listen to what it is that you do,
Hmm.
listen to what it is that's the problem for your audience.
Hmm.
When you're struggling with how to get the ideas out of your head and onto paper,
Hmm.
a copywriter can do that in a way
Right.
that helps you market your
Hmm.
business and market yourself when you're struggling with how to do that.
Right.
So yeah, there is a skill to do it. And
Hmm.
there are people who write their own content that actually can do a good job at it. But it's good to know when you're not quite
Hmm.
hitting the nail on the head and to
Right.
call on somebody to help.
Yeah. I remember when I actually hired someone to do my LinkedIn profile, and I looked at it and I went, "Whoa, that's me." I mean, and they did not in any way say anything that was untruthful or anything like that. They just said it in a different way.
Way.
And I think that's a big part of it is we get very used to saying either about our product or ourselves, it does this and this and this and this and this. And the copywriter is who really brings it out. And so I really wanted to talk to you about having, yes, they should have you, work with you to have, to write the LinkedIn profile, but, people should consider that, they should consider having at least parts of it done by a professional
Help.
copywriter.
It's interesting because, a while ago, a colleague of mine said, I don't understand, Deborah, you're a copywriter, but you're teaching people about LinkedIn. What does LinkedIn and copywriting have to do with one another? And I'm like, well, with LinkedIn, you have to write a profile.
Right.
And, we were talking, one of the biggest mistakes people make on LinkedIn is they forget about, now LinkedIn is calling it the about section.
Right. It used to be the summary.
Called the summary section. And people would go on LinkedIn, put up a picture, put up a headline, and not fill out the summary section.
Well, 2 sentences. I hate it. They did a summary. It was 2 sentences.
And that's a really important part of your profile, because, and one of the mistakes people make when they do fill it out is they end up saying a lot about themselves, which is important. But what I tell people, the way I guide them is talk a little bit about who you are, a little bit about your story, but then how do you help people?
Right.
Okay, and I do believe in writing it in first person. But people are coming to learn about you. So yes, share some of your story, but then share, how do I help others? And I had one client who wrote a story and went back, 20 years. And I'm like, no, that's too much of your story.
Yeah, a little too TMI.
Share a little bit about this and now say how what you learned from this is how you help people.
Right.
So I encourage people strongly to go back to their profiles and look at their about section.
Right.
And fill it out in a way that shares a little bit about who you are and how you help others.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody the other day and they said, think of it as the about tab in a website. And I was like, ooh, yeah. I mean, it's silly me that had never, that light bulb went off. And because that is what it is, that is where you're talking about yourself in a non-salesy way. It can be a bragging way, but not in a braggardly way is maybe the way to put that, because you are trying to convince someone, if not to work with you or buy from you, to at least connect with you, and so if it's, well, I've done, then, that's boring also. But, you want to capture somebody's attention with it. And so I want to read just the first little bit of yours because I love this. And then we want people to read the whole thing. But it says, marketing, like life, is about connecting, building, and nurturing relationships. I speak about the art of engaging as it relates to increasing your visibility online and off, gaining top-of-mind awareness, and attracting a steady stream of happy clients. Now, to me, that reads almost like a novel. I mean, it's very interesting, right? You could have just said, marketing is about building relationships. I help you do that. That's what that says, right? But it says it in a much more engaging and friendly way.
Well, you just hit the nail on the head, because engagement is a big piece. I mean, when I talk about LinkedIn and I do presentations, I say, it's about getting involved. It's about getting engaged. Right. And I kind of, I compare it to joining a chamber of commerce. Some people join a chamber of commerce, they pay their dues, and then they don't do anything.
Right.
They sit back and go, okay, what's the chamber going to do for me?
Come to me.
And LinkedIn, people fill out a LinkedIn profile and they don't even really fill it out.
Right.
And then they sit back and go, well, LinkedIn's not working for me. And I'm like, well, what are you doing to get engaged and get involved?
Right.
Oh, well, nothing. I put up my profile.
Yeah. I go in once a month and do all the connections, and it's like, no, you have to work it.
Yes. So it's really important and actually I just got off the call with somebody who said, I got like 50 new connections. I'm like, great. So now what are you doing with that?
Right.
And here's another important thing, people, ditch the pitch. So somebody connects with you. And actually this client I was just talking with said, yeah, he connected with somebody and the next message was, buy my stuff.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So remember, when you connect with people, first to personalize your connection request. And then when they do accept your connection request, to to start a conversation,
Right.
you
Right.
know, to provide value. I had, we were on a Zoom call yesterday. I connected with someone who was on the Zoom call.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up chatting through LinkedIn, not about, well, a little bit about business, but
Mm-hmm.
mostly she was in England and I was in Colorado. And we started talking about England and Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there was a little bit about business in there.
Right.
But that's the beginning of a
Mm-hmm.
conversation and the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of nurturing a relationship.
Right.
So not every connection is about, let me sell you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It could be a referral resource. It could
Yeah.
be someone who ends up being an affiliate partner.
Mm-hmm.
It could just be someone who becomes a good friend or a colleague.
Right. You know, and it's the old dating story. You know, you don't ask somebody to marry you 5 minutes after you met. You know, usually, every once in a while there is, you know, but yeah,
We could do a whole show on dating.
I know, you know, but yeah, so we don't pitch right away, and you know, and the people that do, I mean, it was funny. I was looking back through here as you were talking, and it was funny because I had someone, I get the nasty pitches several times a week, you know, and now there's and I do, you know, there's a difference between, hi, I'd like to make connections with you, and how can I help you? Well, I'm still going to ignore that.
Right.
But, you know, I had one earlier this week that said, I was so, dear Debra. So I always know, okay, they really don't know me, but my LinkedIn profile is Debra. I mean,
Debra.
You know, and mine's long. I'm Deborah.
Right.
And so, you know, it said, hi, Debra. So I'm like, okay, well, they clearly don't know me. But at least they use my name. I mean, you know, as opposed to the others where, you know, it was just a cut and paste. They at least took the time to put my name in there.
Yes.
But then it said, I was very intrigued to read more about Deb Creer. And, you know, and it totally threw me for a second. And then I realized that, like you, my name is my business. And this person had no clue that my name was my business. And I'm thinking, okay, how do you miss that Deborah Creer and Deb Creer are, you know, and so, you know, the whole thing was Deb Creer does this and Deb Creer does that. And it's like, okay, no, you know, and I actually told her, no, I'm sorry, I'm not interested. And then she pitched me again. She did not catch that I said, no, go away. She got a response and she went, oh, I got a response. You know, and that's one of the other mistakes that people make is, you know, they might have said, hey, it's nice to connect with you. And then I respond and I say, you know, that's great. And then you get the pitch, you know, and so, you know, build that relationship.
Well, and here's sort of a PS to that. I connected with someone on LinkedIn, and then guess what? I ended up on his email list.
Oh, yeah.
So he wasn't starting to pitch me on LinkedIn, but I started getting emails going, did you get this from me? Did you get this from me? You know, I haven't heard back from you. And I finally unsubscribed.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, to be honest, when I first got on social media, I made that mistake. Somebody connected with me. I put them on my list. And it was only
LinkedIn made that easy. It was so easy to get somebody's email address.
Yes, not as easy now. And actually, a lot of people will put an email address in their LinkedIn profile that they don't use other than on LinkedIn.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so please, when somebody connects with you on LinkedIn, that doesn't mean you add them to your email list.
Right.
You know, unless they happen to go to your website and opt into your email list. That's a whole different thing.
Well, and you want them to be going to your website.
Yes.
You know, and so you should have that call to action in there. In some cases. Now it's interesting. I interviewed someone else for this series this month, and she does not. LinkedIn is the only online presence she has, and she works full time. I mean, she said she doesn't need it, and she gets as much business as she needs from LinkedIn, and that's great. But yeah, if you're sending someone else, you know, if you've got a website, you want that call to action, and you might say, hey, I've got a great white paper, go to my website to check it out, you know, something like that. But yeah, just don't try and snag their email address and put it in your list.
Yeah. It's, and I hear it a lot, not necessarily just on LinkedIn, but on Facebook. People say, oh my God, you know, we connected on Facebook and now I'm getting your emails every day. Or I met you at a business event and I shook your hand and now I'm on your email list. So you have to be sensitive to that. You know, I don't know if I would say the hard part, but we're all in business.
Mhm.
And so obviously we do need to make money. We have bills to pay.
Mhm.
And so the goal in many cases is ultimately to build your business.
Mhm.
But there's a way to do it that's, I don't know what the correct word is. Sometimes as a copywriter, I don't always have the right word.
Eh. Well,
But
especially when you get put on the spot. I mean, that's
but there's a way to build the relationship so that it could turn into a
right.
prosperous relationship, without it feeling icky or
Mhm.
salesy. Or, my tagline is marketing and writing with heart, not hype.
Mhm.
And so I do my best to say, how can I help you? But
Mhm.
if you don't want to buy my stuff, that's okay.
Right.
I just got off a call for an hour and a half. I wasn't charging that
Mhm.
person. It will turn into,
Mhm.
a client.
Right.
But sometimes you have to know what that fine line is.
Mhm. Right. And uh, I think that we're using LinkedIn more than we have in the past, and I think part of that is because we're getting the Facebook burnout, where we're tired of seeing all of the political things. That's been
Politics.
and now, of course, as we're recording this, we're in self-exile because of coronavirus, and so that's of course all over everywhere on Facebook, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, we need
Right.
information and things like that, but it is an overload. And if I want excuse me, if I want business, I have to go to LinkedIn.
Mhm.
And that's great. That's what I do. I go to LinkedIn because people are sharing content about, information, articles that they've seen. Now, it might pertain to politics. It might pertain to COVID-19, but from a business perspective.
Yes, and that's the important thing,
Mhm.
is I'll post images,
Mhm.
and I get a lot of people that love my just flower images, but I'll
Mhm.
put in
Right.
something like, something about, is your business blossoming, or what's
Mhm.
blossoming in your business
Mhm.
today. And I do get a lot of people that look at those.
Mhm.
Not everyone responds to them, but I
Mhm.
see people view it.
Right.
Now, so other things that I do are always, some inspirational quote,
Mhm.
or some post about LinkedIn, or a
Right.
post about
Mhm.
copywriting, something that provides value for people.
Mhm.
But an important thing to keep in mind that you sort of mentioned that made me think of this, um, is yes, we want to build those relationships to hopefully build our business.
Mhm.
But LinkedIn is really awesome as well for helping you just build your personal brand and
Right.
be a thought leader,
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
share information that's of value. And it doesn't even have to always be your own information.
Right. Oh, yeah, it's perfectly fine to share someone else's content, as
And
long as you're
that's
not taking
actually,
credit for it. Mhm.
well, yes, right. So Deb Greer could post something and I
Mhm.
might share that and
Mhm.
say, here's something my colleague shared that I
Right.
found really valuable
Mhm.
today, and I'm sharing it with you.
Mhm.
One, that keeps me top of mind with Deb Greer.
Mhm.
And two, it shares value with my audience.
Right.
It also introduces my audience to you.
Mhm.
So there are a lot of really nice ways that help you build that
Mhm.
relationship without pitching,
Right. Right.
you know.
So what else should be in your about section? Because people are like, okay, well, I've got 2,000 characters. That's a lot. I probably don't want to fill that. What do I want to put there?
So it kind of goes back to what we were talking about, but one thing that we haven't talked about
Mhm.
is, and I don't mean to stuff, but you should have keyword phrases
Right.
in your,
Mhm.
throughout your
Mhm.
LinkedIn profile.
Mhm.
But when you're writing that about section, think about, what would somebody search if they don't know
Mhm.
you, they don't know
Right.
your name, they don't know your business? What's
Mhm.
the keyword phrase or
Mhm.
several keyword phrases they
Mhm.
might search? And that should be in your about section,
Mhm.
not just stuffed, but in a way that's
Mhm.
appropriate. So when you're talking about who you are and how you help people, those
Mhm.
phrases are in there. Should somebody be, because LinkedIn, like Google, is a search engine.
Right. And it's a really robust search engine when you've got the right content there.
Yes, so for example, I am a speaker,
Mhm.
and a lot of speakers will put in their LinkedIn profile that they are a speaker
Mhm.
or a keynote speaker.
It's a
And
presenter.
one of
Mhm.
one of my clients who was a speaker, I said, well, if you do a search on LinkedIn for keynote speaker, how many results
Right.
do you think you get?
Oh yeah, it's overwhelming. Mm-hmm.
So we went back in, and not just in her about section, but also in her professional headline and in her experience
Mm-hmm.
section,
Mm-hmm.
we had keyword phrases that related. She's a wellness speaker. She talks
Ah.
about
Mm-hmm.
part of her story is
Mm-hmm.
how she got very ill and almost died,
Mm.
and how she got herself back to good health.
Mm-hmm.
And it had to do with diet and nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So we made sure those keyword phrases were in the
Right.
professional headline,
Mm-hmm.
were in her about section, were in her current experience, and if it was applicable, in her past experience. So she had health and wellness, she had work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
So all those kinds of things should be sprinkled throughout. So if
Right.
somebody were to search a wellness speaker,
Mm-hmm.
or a health and wellness
Mm-hmm.
speaker, then she would more likely show up than if they were just
Right.
searching a keynote.
Right. Well, and it's like, when we used to design websites and you had to put keywords in there, and there was actually, they don't do this anymore, but you had to put keywords in. And so you thought of anything that somebody would use to search for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course there were the people who cheated that Google soon did away with, where they might put someone else, and these are all hidden, they're in the coding
Right.
of your
Of the
website.
site
So they would put somebody else's name. They would put
name.
somebody else's, oh yeah, bad form, and of course Google's smarter than that. And Google,
Right.
no. But and that I think is maybe that's one of the reasons why we need to work with a copywriter, because we get stuck in thinking, I'm a speaker, and we
Mm-hmm.
forget what other terms someone might
People might search.
use. And it's really funny. I've seen people's profiles before where what they have done is they know they are an X, and they've got their handy dandy thesaurus. And so then they pick, okay, well, there's speaker, there's presenter, there's trainer, there's, and so they're sprinkling those words in, but very heavy handedly.
Yeah.
And so it's not appropriate. And that, again, that's where it helps to be working with someone who knows how to write as opposed to open a thesaurus.
Well, that, and I think what you're alluding to is stuffing,
Mm-hmm. Right.
just stuffing words in
Mm-hmm.
that, one, when you read it, it doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Or two, it's not true to who you
Mm-hmm.
are.
Mm-hmm.
And one
Right.
thing that's really important, I know the word is used a lot, but I believe it's so important, is being authentic and
Right.
being genuine
Mm-hmm.
to who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if it's true for who you are,
Mm-hmm.
then perfect.
Right.
But don't be stuffing every
Mm-hmm.
possible word in there because you think this is going to get
Right.
me better SEO
Mm-hmm.
or show
Right.
up, because it won't, most
Mm-hmm.
likely.
Yeah. Well, and I always tell people, especially with your about section, write it and then read it out loud. How does it flow? Because that's where the stuffing
Mm-hmm.
comes out. That's where, because when you start struggling to even read it, someone else is going to struggle too. And then what
With it
happens
too.
is they stop.
Yes. And another point, and a mistake that people make is,
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned earlier, you have 2,000 characters in your
Mm-hmm.
about section. Please, please, please don't write 2,000 characters into one really long paragraph
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
that nobody is going to read. So I
Right.
tell people, and this is true as a copywriter for websites,
Mm-hmm.
make it easy on the reader's eye. So short paragraphs, subheadings,
Mm-hmm.
bullet points. I tell
Mhm.
people, don't do just bullet points, because then you're not really having a conversation. You're
Right. Because that's
just blabbing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So make a combination
Mhm.
of, some personal content, some bullet points, some subheadlines, to make it, when they go there, easy on the eye. So, because like everybody in advertising and marketing, they'll scan first.
Right.
And then if there's something that makes them go, "Oh, that
Mhm.
resonates with me,"
Right.
then they'll go back and they'll read. So make sure that when you fill out that about section, that you don't write one just really long paragraph.
Oh, yeah. And maybe you do a brain dump to do that.
Yes.
But, then you go back through and edit.
Well, and to that point, real quickly, one thing I recommend to people, I don't know if you do this, is to start out with a Word document. Don't go into LinkedIn and start writing.
Yeah.
Go in and write a Word file and cut and chop it up, move things around. Then when you feel like you've got it where you want it, go into LinkedIn
Right.
and put it in there.
Mhm.
So,
And yeah, plus you can use some of the tools that Word has to make sure that words are spelled correctly.
yeah.
All these various things, because yeah, that's the worst thing. I tell you, is if you have typos in your LinkedIn. I don't care what you do. If you have typos, you're done, because this is your professional
Professional.
image. And so take the time to do it. I was helping a young man one time. I've talked about this before. Extremely knowledgeable kid. He had just graduated from the Leeds School of Business there at University of Colorado.
Colorado.
So, very, very high level kid. And he was going into the insurance field. He misspelled license every time, because and that's, of course, that's once you get a word stuck in your head,
Right.
it doesn't. Yeah. And of course, then I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, it doesn't look right. So, and so I had to check. I mean,
What's wrong
because
with
spelling
this?
isn't as, and so I gently said, did you run this through a spell checker? No. Okay. And I said, well, license is spelled wrong. And he looks at it, and out of his mouth comes the words, no, it's not. And I thought, okay, I'm pretty much done here. But yeah, and he was applying for jobs and things, and with people who knew how to spell the word license.
License.
And and so right there, it is exactly the same as if you have typos in your resume. It's gone. I don't care what it says, it's gone.
To that point, you were saying read things out loud.
Mm-hmm.
You might consider having somebody else read it.
Right.
Because
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes, for example, if somebody sends me something that they wrote, you're too close to it. Even as a copywriter, you've looked at it so many times that you don't see that license is misspelled.
Right. We
but
read
someone
the
who
mistakes.
looks at it for the first time goes, oh, did you notice this word was misspelled? And you're like, oh, how did I
know.
miss that?
And you're like, well, and things
so
too,
often.
like, did you do a sentence that went on for, 4 lines? And, because as you're writing, it was just, and, and then when you're reading it, pretty soon you're turning blue because you didn't get a chance to breathe. So
I just had that this morning where I was reading this client's, sentence. And as I kept reading, I'm like, where does it end? And finally I went, you have one sentence that takes up 4 lines.
Oh,
it's one sentence. I'm like, we got to fix that.
Right. And that's easy enough. That was probably at least 2 sentences, if not 3 or more.
Right.
And that's the cool thing about this is it should be kind of conversational. So it might be a 2-word sentence. That could be your sentence. I can, we can, all those various things. That's okay to do that.
Yes. And, not so much maybe in LinkedIn, but in copywriting in general, we often break the rules of grammar, and so, like on a website or in a direct mail piece, there might be a sentence that you go, that's really not a sentence.
Right. There's a preposition there.
Right. A LinkedIn, maybe it's a little bit more formal, so to speak, but yes, you can still be conversational and draw people in, because the whole idea is, people say, my LinkedIn profile is not working for me. And I'm like, okay, let's go look at it. And there's nothing that even draws you in to say, I want to know more about this person, or this person could be somebody I should stay in touch with. And it's sad because I just had someone said, I want to be on LinkedIn. I actually think I have a profile. And she went searching and she finally found it. There was no photo on it. There was, no about section, barely a title. And so now she's working on totally revamping it. But I think that happened for a lot of people who got the LinkedIn invite from a friend.
And we cut and pasted our resume into it, right?
If you even did that. So, there's a lot of, when I speak, a lot of people say, I got on LinkedIn because a friend sent me an invitation, but I don't really know what I'm doing there now.
Right.
And so for some people, they may not really need to be on LinkedIn.
Right. Oh yeah. And especially if you're not going to use it, if you're just going to get your profile and then never go back in, never do anything with it. It is like a website. If you had a company website that you put up and then never, ever updated, that's not going to work either.
Yeah. It's a, what do we call it, a live document, you know.
Right.
Even if
Mhm.
you don't really change much in your profile, you're still on doing posts
Mhm.
or doing long form articles,
Right.
or, you know, look what other people
Mhm.
are sharing,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. It's just important to show people who you are, because I would say, I don't know if it's, I'm making this statistic up. 9 times out of 10, I will say, you go to a conference or an event, or you're out
Mhm.
networking, somebody you meet looks you up on LinkedIn after they
Mhm.
meet you,
Right.
you know. And so if they go up to your profile and there's really not much there, they're like,
Mhm.
oh, well, I guess, you know, there's not,
Right.
I'm not learning anything about who this
Mhm.
person is other than what I
Right.
just heard from them at this networking event.
Well,
A
and
lot of
worse
people
if it's
do
out
their
of
due
date.
diligence. Say that again, or it's
You
out
know,
of date.
if it's out of date. So maybe, you know, they don't have their current job there or their current position or anything like that. You're like, well, maybe that's not even the right person.
Oh, that's true too.
Mhm.
Like, is this the person I
Mhm.
just connected with?
Mhm.
You know, I'm not
Right.
sure. Yeah,
Mhm.
because you could search them
Mhm.
and find somebody that's got the same name and
Mhm.
find out, oh, well, gee, I thought they worked at
Right.
XYZ company, but their
Mhm.
profile says ABC.
Mhm. Right.
Um, and does the picture look current, you
Mhm.
know, and look like that person that I just met?
Mhm. Right.
Which brings us to photos.
Mhm. Pictures, 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 people. You must have a picture.
But, you know, what I like to add these days, because it wasn't as prevalent when LinkedIn first started, it's not just your profile photo, you
Mhm.
know, which is that little
Mhm.
picture on the left side of your, but the background
Right.
banner.
Mhm.
And one thing that I encourage people to do, some people put up a pretty picture in the background. I'm
Mhm.
like, well, that's pretty, but why not include on that
Right.
background your contact
Mhm.
information?
It's a billboard.
Right. You know, it's not
Mhm.
clickable, it's not
Right.
linkable, but
Mhm.
what could hurt if someone
Mhm.
gets to your LinkedIn profile and right
Right.
away they see
Mhm.
your phone number or your
Mhm.
email or
Mhm.
your website?
Mhm.
So add that to it.
Mhm.
And a great tool for doing that is Canva,
Mhm.
you know,
Yep.
where you
Oh
can
yeah,
take an
because you can
image.
size it exactly the way you need it sized. Mhm.
So I strongly recommend that people take advantage of that
Mhm.
banner and put contact
Mhm.
information on there so that people right away, they don't have to hit the
Mhm.
contact info button or look
Mhm.
for how to reach you. It's right there as soon as they get to your
Mhm.
profile.
Right. Now, one of the other mistakes that people make is that they think, well, I've got my LinkedIn profile there, and you know, we've said, you know, kind of the now what, you know, and they expect that the world will come to them. You know, the old if I build it, they will come
It will
type of
come.
thing. So, you know, yes, you have to have something there, obviously, but it's not an immediate, oh my gosh, people are going to come to you type of thing.
No, no, it takes time to build those
Mhm.
relationships. And even when somebody does come to you, and that's why I talk about the importance of keyword phrases, is if
Mhm.
someone is searching, they may likely find you if
Mhm.
you have a robust and optimized
Right.
profile.
Mhm.
Um, but just because you build it doesn't mean it happens.
Mhm.
That's where the engagement and the
Mhm.
involvement part comes in. You know, so if there are people that you want to connect with, are you looking at their LinkedIn
Mhm.
profile, one, but are you looking at what they're posting, and not just looking at what they're
Right.
posting, but are you commenting on what they're
Mhm.
posting or sharing what they're
Mhm.
posting? Because then they'll see, you'll stay top of
Mhm.
mind that
Right.
way. So that's really important to
Mhm.
remember, is just because you put it up
Mhm.
there, unless you get involved and engaged, you know, not
Right.
much would probably
Mhm.
happen.
Mhm. Yeah, and there are tools to be able to do this. And I think, you know, a lot of people don't even realize you can tag someone. You tagged me twice yesterday. And you know, and of course what happens is it immediately sent me an email. And I was
Hmm.
like, "Ooh, what Deborah say?" You know, and so then I went to LinkedIn.
So
You know, and so you can tag me now. You know, it's just like tagging anybody on
I
any
was going to
social
say,
media.
let's add the
Yeah.
caveat in
You
there.
know, don't tag Bill Gates just because you think Bill Gates is going to pay attention to you. You know, and so it does have to be appropriate.
Appropriate.
But yeah, you can tag people. You know, there's the section, and it's at the top of your little thing. I'm looking to see where it's called notifications. And so it tells you kind of what's going on in your field. And let's see, where's mine? Oops, I clicked the wrong one. Here we go. Okay, so it's telling me that I need to congratulate this person because they got a new job. This person was mentioned in an article. This person had a live broadcast. These people started new jobs. I mean, and this is just within the last couple of hours. This one's talking about a post that someone wrote. It will tell you in particular if someone commented on one of my posts, because you always want to know those things. So go in and check the notifications. And it might take a while, because if you haven't checked them in a while, now don't go back and if it was something that was more than just a couple of days ago, they won't remember. But that's a great way, again, to interact with people. And that's kind of the whole thing where you see somebody at a networking event. If I say, "Hey, Deborah," and an hour later you go, "I think she talked to me." No.
Well, and to that point, when you look at the notifications, it will say, Deborah reacted to your post, or Deborah commented on your post. So one thing I tell people is, if someone commented on your post, go in there and respond.
Yes.
Even
if you're just clicking the like button.
Or even if you're just saying thank you. And I will do this depending on how many people actually like or comment. If you're getting hundreds of people that respond, great for you. But when I first put something up, if someone just likes it or reacts to it, I'll go in and say thank you for the thumbs up.
Yep.
And I'll tag them and say, "Thanks, Deb, for the thumbs up."
Right.
So then they see that I'm interacting with them. Even if they didn't comment, they just liked something. So it's so important to have that interaction, because if someone comments and you don't respond, then how do you start the conversation?
Well, and especially because what if they were commenting to say, "Hello, I would like to give you money." And we've all had that happen, right? Where we have tried to communicate with somebody on some social media and they don't respond. Then I take my little money and I go elsewhere. Or I take my business partnership or whatever it is. I go find someone else who is at least going to acknowledge that I exist.
Yes. And, you brought up something else in the notifications when it says, someone has a new job or it's somebody's birthday. And when I've done presentations, people go, "Oh, I find that so annoying. Why do I need to know it's their birthday or that they got a new job?" And I'm like, well, that's one way you can engage with them.
Right.
There's somebody you connected with that you want to build a relationship with. How long would it take you to say happy birthday?
Right.
Have a great day.
Right.
Or to say congratulations on the new job. How's it going?
Yep.
That's just a great way to, and I've had the experience of reaching out to someone, saying happy birthday. She responded. We ended up in a conversation and she referred me for a speaking engagement.
Right. Oh yeah.
That
and
wasn't
you never
my
know when
goal.
that new business or new position might be something that needs your expertise.
Your help.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
So,
I'm looking at one here where I got one that there was three people or four people who have new positions. And so one is a consultant. No. Okay. And that's one of those bugaboos. Don't just put consultant as your job title.
Right.
That means absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Same with founder, owner, president.
Yes.
No.
We haven't touched on that one.
Yes. Now this person is a director of marketing. They have a new position. Okay. That might be worth at least saying, "Hey, congrats on the new position."
Right.
Now it's not, it's not, "Let me know if I can be of assistance."
Right.
No, just congrats.
Right.
This one added a new position. This one, it obviously started a new volunteer position, and so it's little snippets, and which brings me to one of the things people always say, "How much time is this going to take?" So how much, now you use LinkedIn extensively. And I'm going to say, I'm using the word extensively, but not saying you're on it, 25 hours a day.
Yes.
How much time do you spend on LinkedIn?
Oh, well, I probably am like you, one of the exceptions where I spend an inordinate amount of time. So what I'll answer with is how much time I think people should spend, that don't do it now, but say they want to get more involved.
Right.
I say take 15 minutes, maybe in the morning and at the end of the day, because the other thing people say is, how do I find time for it? And they'll find time to be on Facebook.
Yeah. So
They'll
take
find
15 minutes
time.
off of Facebook and spend it on LinkedIn, folks.
Well, and they'll also find time. When I do LinkedIn workshops, they're 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So I say to people, you found 3 hours to come here today.
Right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You can certainly find 15 minutes in the morning,
Right.
or 15 minutes at night to
Mm-hmm.
go through, scroll the homepage to see what other people are
Mhm.
posting, put up your own post,
Mm-hmm.
comment, like, share.
Mhm.
And instead of watching, that new binge-worthy series on TV,
Mhm.
spend 15 minutes at
Right.
night, to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's more manageable for most people. Say, oh,
Right.
the trick for someone like me or you, and I'm including you, tell me if I'm wrong, is we can get on there and go down the rabbit hole and be there
Oh yeah,
a
squirrel.
lot longer.
Yeah. And
Um,
which that's not a bad thing, because I can get lost in the rabbit hole of Facebook and learn absolutely nothing and
Nothing.
waste a lot of time. I can get down the rabbit hole of LinkedIn and be learning and making connections. So there is a little bit different there.
Yes. And I just want to stress again, it's not how many connections you have.
Right.
It's about the quality of it. Because ultimately, we have colleagues, I don't know how many you have, I don't probably have as many connections as you do, but, colleagues that do have 30,000 connections on LinkedIn.
Right.
And my theory is, how do you really build and nurture relationships with 30,000 people? So you'll find there'll probably be a smaller network of people that you do engage with more consistently. So don't always think about, I've got to get 5,000 connections. It will be helpful when you launch a program,
Right.
to have that greater reach. But how many people are you actually starting to engage with and interact with and build relationships?
Right. Right.
So,
I mean, it's just like a chamber membership. There might be 5,000 people that are part of that chamber, but there's, 50 that you network with on a regular basis. And yeah, I just looked. So I have just a little over 4,000 connections. I don't know those 4,000 people. Yeah. And could I go through and weed a bunch of them out? Sure. But why would I? I mean, there was a reason we connected. But that does bring me to, the next set of mistakes that people make is, they think, well, I should only connect with people I know. I should only connect with people in my geographic area. I have one person on Facebook who says, who posts his LinkedIn thing, but he said, I will only connect with you if we have met in person. Now, there's no hard and fast rule. I mean,
no.
But
LinkedIn's terms of service, I don't know if they've changed them, but used to be, they suggest
you were supposed to have met them. No, in
that
real
you don't
life
connect with anyone that you don't know.
Right.
But I find one of the mistakes people make is they get a connection request from somebody they don't know and they just ignore it.
Right.
My philosophy is, don't ignore it. You don't have to accept it or ignore it. Go to that person's profile. Read about them. Hopefully they have a robust profile, and see what's there and go, Deb Career, she might be a good connection for me.
Right.
And then
you can always ask them, why did you want to connect with me?
That's my next step, is you go in and you reply, but you don't accept. And that's, we're not screen sharing, but there's a way to do that.
Right.
And say, oh, Deb, thanks for reaching out. But I'm curious, and this is what I say, I'm curious, were you referred to me or were you simply searching LinkedIn?
Right.
It helps me to know how people connect with me. Now, there'll be some people who never respond, and my first thought is, then why did they reach out?
Right. They're a bot. They're,
Or there'll be those people that say, thanks for connecting, and I haven't connected with them yet. I've asked them,
because they did the cut and paste.
They're like, thanks for connecting. Here's my stuff, buy my stuff. And I'm like, well, you still didn't answer my question.
And now I'm really not going to connect with you.
Right. And then there will be people who will respond and say, oh, I was searching, or, oh, I listened to you on the podcast with Deb Career and I wanted to reach out. I'm like, oh, and we're talking about people who don't send a personalized request.
Right.
They just send a generic request, which is another mistake. I think we need to write a book.
I know we should, Well, and let's talk about that specifically because, I'm looking at mine right now and I have a bunch of outstanding requests just because,
Mhm.
I don't always go in and ignore them. And there are times where I just leave them there because then they're kind of never land. But, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's 35
Uh-huh.
pending invitations right now. None of them sent a personal request,
Personal request.
which is part of why I ignored them.
Mhm.
And I tell people, we don't remember things. I might have just had the most fascinating conversation with you at a networking event, and I get back and I don't remember your name. So, tell me, hey, it was great meeting
Right.
you at the chamber event. Please, let's connect on LinkedIn. I do that with my guests for this podcast. I always connect with them on LinkedIn. And
Uh-huh.
every once in a while, I have somebody who doesn't have a LinkedIn profile, and I'm like, and you're in business, but different conversation. Um, but I always say, hi, hi, Deborah,
Uh-huh.
setting up our connections because you're going to be a guest on my program, the
Right.
Business Power Hour. That way they know exactly why, so it's not a spammy sales pitch, and of course they always connect. I mean, nobody's,
Yeah.
they want me to be able to promote them. So, it's
Right.
not that they're going to tell me no, but it takes a couple seconds, folks. Remind somebody why and
Right.
tell them why you want to connect.
Yes, I mean, it's so true. And I've had people when I've reached out, they go, "Oh, Deborah, we met at, this
Hmm.
business event." And I go, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't remember,
Right. Hmm. Hmm.
remember that. But thank you for
Hmm.
reminding me."
Right. Hmm.
Um, because, and sometimes people, they'll just meet you at an event and
Hmm.
they'll pull out their phone and say, "Well, let's connect," and they'll
Hmm.
just hit the button. Um, and most of the time I'll remember because I just happened at an event that
Right.
I was at.
Hmm.
But it's like you said, it doesn't take much time
Hmm.
to send a short message
Hmm.
saying, "It was great meeting you at the
Hmm.
Boulder Chamber. I'd like to stay in touch with
Hmm.
you." Or, for example, I commented on somebody's LinkedIn post,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then I got a request from somebody I didn't recognize, I
Right.
didn't know.
Hmm.
And I sent her a message saying, "How are we
Hmm.
connected?" She said,
Right.
"Oh, I saw you commented
Hmm.
on Tony's post."
Right.
And when I
Thought you
looked at
looked
my
interesting. Hmm.
notifications,
Hmm.
that I saw her name saying,
Hmm.
"Oh, she reacted to that." I'm
Hmm.
like, "Oh, okay."
Hmm. Right.
But in the first
Hmm.
place, she should have sent a message saying, "Oh,
Hmm.
Deborah, I'm
Right.
connecting because I saw
Hmm.
you comment on Tony." But
Right.
luckily, she responded,
Hmm.
and now we are building a
Yeah.
relationship.
And I'll be honest. I mean, one of the problems is this right here. When you use the app, it just automatically sends the request to connect.
But
Um,
there is a way to get around that.
do tell, do tell.
Oh God, well, it requires a screen share, I think. But so when you're on your phone, and I have
Hmm.
a blog post about it, maybe I'll send you the link.
Oh yes,
When you're
and
on,
and we'll share that with people.
yeah, when you're on your
Hmm.
phone or your iPad,
Hmm.
there's a spot on someone's LinkedIn profile that either will say more or has three dots.
Right. Hmm.
First, you always go to their profile.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. Even if
And
you met them and knew all about them, just go to look to
just
see.
go to the
Hmm.
profile. And on your phone, though, you don't want to click the connect button.
Right, because it does just
Then it
send the
just sends out a
connection.
message.
Hmm.
You want to click on that button that says more or has
Hmm.
three dots, and then it will come up with a drop down menu that says personalize your invite.
Perfect.
And
Yay.
then you can
Hmm.
say, "Hey, Deb, it was
Hmm.
great being on your podcast."
Hmm.
So it's not very obvious. So
Right.
you have to sort of search for it. But
Hmm.
I used to get a lot of people that said, "Oh, sorry,
Hmm.
I was using my phone." And I'm
Hmm.
like, "Okay,
Right.
that's not an excuse anymore."
Right. Yeah. Because and it makes sense that and so I'm sure what it is they're thinking, okay, you're standing here talking to each other. Here, I'm going to send you a request to connect.
Right.
That's not the way most people do it,
Do it.
because for one thing, that's distracting. That's like taking a text message in the middle of a conversation. I mean,
Right.
you don't want to be sidetracked. And so I love that tip. Yay. I love it. I love it.
Yay.
And then one of the other things that I do is, not just look at like you mentioned that one person saw that you had commented on somebody's post. I
Hmm.
look at who viewed my profile.
Hmm.
Now I do pay, so I get more people and I get a little bit more
Uh-huh.
information. But I will go and look at their profiles, and I'm just curious, as to why. And so then if they look like somebody that looks interesting, I will send them a request to connect. But I'm totally truthful about it. I say, I noticed that you looked at my profile. I don't know why, but let's connect. At the very least, they're going to tell me no.
No.
But there was some reason they looked me up. Now there's, the nice thing is there's, I believe, only 2 other Deb Creers. So it's not that they probably got the wrong person, but you never know. I mean, I've made some really great business connections that way. Is it a little like stalking? Yeah, but it's information that's out there. I mean, it's not that I had to dig or anything. It tells me, so-and-so looked at your profile. Mm-hmm.
Well, and on the other hand too, sometimes I'll notice that somebody I am already connected to viewed my profile.
Right.
And so in that case, I'll reach out and say, Deb, I noticed you were at my profile. Is there something I can help you with?
Right. Yeah.
Short and sweet.
Like mine, it's going to come, my name is going to come up in your list because I'm in your profile right now.
Yeah. And I know why. So I won't have to reach out and say.
You don't have to reach out and touch me. But the whole, it is a very personal choice as to who you connect with and why you connect. There are people who only want to connect in their physical proximity. Okay. But I tell people, you never know when that person halfway around the world might know the person that is best to connect with here. So, you even if you have, say, a physical business location, you never know who you're connected with.
Well, that's like the birthday message I sent, to a colleague. She was in Florida. The person she referred me to was not in Florida. I forget where she was.
Right.
But it was, it was a referral.
Right.
So again, I stress, don't always think, oh, is this person going to be a client? It may not be a client, but it might be, as you said, somebody who knows somebody who goes, oh, that's a great fit for you to connect. Let me refer you to that person. Let me introduce you to that person. So
now I don't ever connect with somebody who doesn't have a picture. I'm looking at one, they have dog tags. 2 have their company logos. 1 has their company name. Now there are business pages. We didn't even talk about that.
Right.
This one has a tree. Well, that's interesting. And then some of them, some of those headshots were a little skeevy too. So, you might want to think about those. This one has a guitar. Well, that's interesting. And some of them I can tell the second I connect with them, they're going to, like it might say as part of their profile, podcast promoter. I don't need a podcast promoter. I don't want to connect with a podcast promoter, and please don't pitch me on it 900 times. And so I go through and I look, but if someone, especially if someone has taken the time to send me a message, even if I can tell it was a cut and paste message, it moves them higher up on my potential list of, hey, they at least look somewhat interesting.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because as a speaker, one of the connection requests I got was, are you still doing speaking engagements? And I'm like, well, if you were on my profile, you see that I am a speaker, and it said it's current. Well, in a group with other speakers, all of a sudden, several of them started saying, has anyone gotten this LinkedIn request saying, are you still doing speaking engagements? And we're like, oh yeah, was it John Doe? Yeah, it was. So, and I actually responded to the gentleman, but he never responded back.
Right.
So it's, it's life. It's deciding who you want to connect to and who you don't.
And it is about building those relationships. If somebody asks you a question, if it's clearly not a spammy type of thing. Now, I don't respond to the spammy people, and I know people who do. They think it is the most fun thing in the world to respond to the spammers. I just ignore them. I'm not going to respond either way to, I just ignore the spammy things. But if it is a good request, even if it was a cut case, I respond, and even if it's just to say, hey, thank you, but yeah, it's interesting. And Deborah, we've done the hour. Can you believe this? See, this is why I set the timer, because we'd be going 4 hours from now. I know, but that's what's so cool about this. And I think that's one of the things that so many people don't understand is there is so much to LinkedIn. It's not just cut and paste your resume. It's not, let's do, a new connection every once in a while. It really is a robust business platform for building your personal brand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's, and there's, like many things, I find LinkedIn doesn't change as much as some of the other social networks. That
Right.
it stays pretty consistent for a while.
It did throw me when it was no longer summary. It was about. I was like, oh.
About, yes. Because I always talk about the summary section and somebody pulls it up and goes, it says about, where's the summary section? I'm like,
yeah.
Oh. It's the same thing. So there's little changes that happen here or there. But it is somewhat consistent, I find, and there are certain things that they roll out that not everyone gets at the same time.
Right. Yeah. LinkedIn live video is
yeah, I still don't
have
do
that.
live. Yeah. And there was some other thing that they recently rolled out, features, where when you put media on your site, on your profile, mine is under my about section and in my experience section, but they started a new section.
Right. A section on features. Yeah. I've seen that on some people's platforms.
And I haven't seen it on my profile. Right. So, there are things to sort of pay attention to and things that change and shift here and there. Right. So it's, it's an ongoing conversation.
Right. Well, speaking of ongoing conversations, we will continue this again because it's so much fun and so much. And I definitely want to encourage people to reach out and contact you. So how do they find you?
On LinkedIn. They can find me on LinkedIn. They can also find me if you're interested in speaking and having somebody do a LinkedIn workshop. My website is debrajason.com.
Okay.
If you're interested in copywriting and finding, a copywriter to help you, it's rightdirection.com, which is WRITE, rightdirection.com. And then there's this, which you can find on Amazon, but you can also find it at Millionaire Marketing on a Shoestring Budget. When you order it there, you get the nifty gold shoestring.
Oh, yes. See, gold shoestring.
And you get an autographed copy. But, it's available in a multitude of ways as a physical print book, as a ebook. So those are some of the ways you can track me down.
Great. I love it. And you've got lots of resources. And so I encourage people to reach out and connect with you. If you are reaching out to Debra on LinkedIn, be sure to say that you heard, you heard today's program. Personalize those requests, folks, and have your picture, have all that stuff. Now, don't think, it's funny. I always have people that say, I can't connect with you on LinkedIn because my profile's not perfect.
Oh,
my profile's not perfect, folks. It's perfectly okay, to do things. So, it's okay to connect with Debra if your profile's not perfect.
Yes, absolutely.
So, do you have any final thoughts for everyone?
Final thoughts. So go back, look at your LinkedIn profile. A couple of final thoughts, probably. Think about it if you haven't before. Think about keyword phrases, and what might somebody search if they don't know who you are.
Okay.
And then put those keyword phrases in your professional headline, in your about section, in your current experience, in your past experience, if it's applicable, as skills in your skills and endorsement section. And you can even optimize your keywords in the website links.
Cool.
Which is a whole nother lesson. So think about that, but remember to share from a personal side who you are and how you help people. So the about section is that your current experience is more about I find a lot of people take the company that they're working for and they talk about it in their about section.
The company does this.
Yeah, so talk about that in your experience, not in your about section, because again, as we said earlier, it's about your personal brand and sharing a little bit about who you are.
Right.
So those are a couple of quick tips.
Perfect. I love it. And, as Debra said, she can be found on LinkedIn, and then there's all of her various websites. Such fun, as always, chatting with you again. We must do it more than just once a year. I mean, we do once a year, we get together, we chat, and so we do need to do it more often because you are such a great resource and you've got such great information. But until then, I'm Deb Creer. I've been having an absolutely wonderful time talking with Debra Jason, and everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.